I'm Jason Fulmore, SE of SE and Scrappy, and that is
Lucas Da Silva, i.e. Fat and Scrappy.
And we are doing episode 3, May 2nd, and we just finished the U.S. Open in Las Vegas, where there were a lot of Southeast wrestlers out competing. They had what, U15s, they had the little kids, they had the old people.
Yeah.
But we're focused on the U15s, 17s, the 20s, the women's showcase.
Oh.
I don't know that 23s were there.
I don't think they, as I said it, I was like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah. And the seniors, obviously. So, first, overall, did you get to watch any of it or
I got to watch some of it. I was busy doing some other things as well, designing some clothes, recruiting people. I had a lot of things going on, but I did get to catch some of the action.
All right. So,
by the way, just quick, I don't know who put the devil juice in Vito Arujau's water, but like since the end of January, he's just been on demon time. Murders Fix, RBY, and DeSanto in a 2.5 month period. Sorry, I just had to get that out there. My word, he's been on a tear.
Yeah, he has. Was he the most impressive?
He looked good.
He did look good.
I mean, him and Gable, because Gable just decided to remind everybody he just walks back into the U.S. Open and murders everybody again. What?
Yeah, he looked pretty good. And we didn't get to see 51-year-old Rulon Gardner. I don't know if you saw the post, though. Did you see the post?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, God bless him. He worked his body down, and I guarantee you if he was 30, his body would have done it easily. But as a 50-year-old man, you can't be doing that kind of, I'll leave 15 for the last 36 hours. Even when you're that big, at 50, your body just won't allow you to do that. Yeah. So I honestly give a salute to him for even putting his name in the bracket and trying. I'd love to see him make a comeback. He says he wants to come back, just maybe manage the weight a little differently.
Yeah. Well, he had lost a lot of weight to even get to that point. So
yeah, no, I mean, he was on The Biggest Loser.
Oh, was he?
Yeah,
I didn't know that. Okay,
years ago, not like I want to say like 2009. I want to say like when I was younger.
You were a lot younger then.
Yeah, I would have been 8-ish.
Yeah, I was a lot younger then too.
Yeah, you were like 60.
Hey, all right. So let's move on to the takeaways from this weekend and the U.S. Open. Why don't you give me one takeaway? I'll go with the takeaway. We'll go back and forth.
First one for me is the Southeast is in great hands. When you look at like the U17s and down, Josiah Boyden winning a championship in Greco, a ton of All-Americans.
Did Boyden win?
Yeah, in Greco, yeah, he won a championship. Yeah, he won. I feel like the Southeast is in really good hands. Lots of All-Americans, lots of really good wrestling and a lot of them were scrapping. And I say that it just not only be on brand, but they were just going out and throwing what they had. They were throwing the kitchen sink. And that's what you want to see at the highest level. You know, Coach Etheridge calls it puckering. When you just go out there and you're all scared and you like. They weren't. They were out there letting the fur fly, and that's what you love to see, and that's what's going to grow the Southeast. So that's one big takeaway for me is the younger generation. The Southeast is in great hands.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. You know, you look at the U17s and I highlight or we bolded on the website those that made All-American, whether that was in Greco or freestyle, and every state. I mean, Alabama had 2, Florida had 2, Georgia had 4. At U17s. North Carolina didn't have any, and South Carolina didn't have any, but Tennessee had 3. I mean, really, really solid.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's see. I think my biggest takeaway is the fact that, Gabe Arnold, even though Gabe Arnold is not a Georgian, he lives in Iowa now. Okay. But he's from Georgia. And he looked great in winning the U20, 74 kilo? Is it 79 kilo? 79 kilo.
I thought it's weird. I thought it was like 71 or something, but I could be wrong.
So him winning it, I thought was fantastic. If you didn't watch it, he beat Rocco Welsh pretty handily
Yep.
And
Took care of business.
I was super impressed with him and winning it. I've got other takeaways, but I don't want to jump ahead. So you go to your takeaway.
Second one for me, and now this is a bit more, I don't want to say negative, but the caution in one needs to be addressed. I like the idea. I think it's good. Man, the application of it, and as an official, and I want to talk to some of my other officials that I know, the application of it to me is a little wonky. The match with Guilford for me is and Adeline Gray, I think it was. Was it Guilford and Adeline Gray?
I think so. I think so, yeah.
When Guilford got hit 3 times in like 30 seconds, that's kind of outrageous. Like, I don't know. I just feel like it needs to be addressed, and either the wording of it needs to be changed, referees need to clarify. Just, it needs to be changed. I don't want to say it was a negative takeaway, but just something I noticed.
Okay. All right. So takeaway number 2 for me is we saw a lot of wrestlers compete in both freestyle and Greco, but only one in the U15s. Hang on, only 2, because now Josiah Boyden was one of them who placed in both styles, and Sawyer Bartelt won it in Greco just like Boyden did, and then took 3rd in freestyle. So to make the podium in both styles at this tournament, man, those 2 individuals, that is fantastic wrestling.
Tip of the cap, absolutely.
Absolutely. All right. And then my third one is I'm going to give a little bit of a shout out to the old guys. And I know Mike Machiavello would say not old. Okay. But he did win an NCAA title all the way back, I think, in 2018 or so. Yeah. And man, and I know Wolfpack Wrestling, and we're going to get into this here in a second. You don't really consider them. He is definitely a North Carolina wrestler because he's been in North Carolina. But but the fact that he won, and the rest of the Wolfpack, who all registered under North Carolina, and they wrestled really, really well. Now give me your take on the Wolfpack Wrestling Club.
To me, you represent where either you emerged from your mother or where you like went to school and lived your life. I'm sorry. I am not from Mount Vernon, Georgia, because I go to school here.
But you are Georgia.
I don't care if I go to Mars for school. I'm not from Mars.
Okay, so hang on for a second. Let's say this. Let's say that you went to Kent State, right? Yeah. Okay, and you stayed at Kent State after you graduated, and you began training at their RTC up there and stayed in Ohio. Would you still register at Georgia?
Yes, because that's where I'm from. To me, it's where you're from.
But maybe these guys have already maybe they're now North Carolinians.
Well, I don't. So here's the thing: is my issue is if you move there after you graduate, like Hayden Hidlay, for instance, that makes sense. Okay, but if you're going to school there,
okay.
So it's like Gabe Arnold. He's a Georgian. He's not a Pennsylvanian because he went to Wyoming Seminary. He's not an Iowan because he went to school in Iowa. Just like I think Bazaukis is a Floridian, not a seminarian and then an Ohio Statian. He's a Floridian because he's from Florida.
Well, he's originally from New York, but he wrestled for a period of time.
Originally. Again, I think it depends on where you spent most of it. I don't think moving somewhere for business translates to where you are from now.
Okay. So actually, you and I we see it a little bit differently, but that's okay. One of the things though I think we can agree on though is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
I think in total Wolf
8. They had 7. Caleb Smith was the only other one for North Carolina.
Tar Heel and App State through Greco and freestyle had 14, if I counted correctly.
That might be true. One thing we should be able to agree on is, man, if they're all in the state of North Carolina, straight North Carolina should be kicking some ass in freaking freestyle and Greco.
Yeah, in theory dictates. No, I'm agreeing. I'm saying theory dictates. Yes, like they should be. Yes.
Yes. So, I mean, you have an opportunity as a a high school athlete to be within 250 miles of one of those RTCs, man, if you want to get better, it sure seems like that there is an opportunity to get better.
Agreed, 100%. I think every high school kid should go to an RTC when they can. I firmly believe that.
Yeah. All right. Last thing on the U.S. Open that I think we should say is tip of the cap to Coach Dodgens, who went out there and competed.
I was gonna wait and say that at the end, but quick shout out, old man national champ. Shout out to Dodgens. He took care of business, repping the brand. I mean, I'm gonna give myself a credit. Those black singlets were those were sexy. Nice. That was a good one. I'm very proud of those.
All right, so let's move to segment number 2, and that is your conversation with. I don't know. I don't know if you asked them or not, because I actually haven't seen the conversations yet. But with Kealonie Vega and Cooper Haase, the Tricia Saunders Award winner in the state of Florida, and the Dave Schultz Award winner in the state of Florida, they're both from the same high school.
Yeah,
that's a pretty unique thing.
We both did. I talked to both of them about Osceola during the interviews, about just like about overall that school, and they both were really fun conversations, and both of them are quite the characters. So it's I think the audience will enjoy those interviews.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and flip to those 2 interviews back to back, and if you want to see the full interview, we'll post those later. But this is Fat and Scrappy's conversation with, first, Kealonie Vega, and second, with Cooper Haase.
What's up, guys? It's me, Lucas Da Silva, here with Fat and Scrappy brand and SCWrestle.com. I am here with the Tricia Saunders Award winner for the state of Florida, Kealonie Vega. Kealonie, thank you for being on the show, and congratulations on the award, first and foremost.
Thank you.
I think the first question that I'd like to ask is, what did winning the award mean for you? And maybe give us a little bit on what the award is for those who may not be as initiated on what it actually is.
Okay, so for me, winning the award, it's an honorable thing, because for those who don't know what Tricia Saunders is, she if I'm not wrong, she's a 4-time world champion, and then a 1-time silver medalist in the world championships. And she also is the first woman to be inducted into the National and International Wrestling Hall of Fame. So that's a pretty big deal. So you know, that's like, you know, something that's like nearly impossible, and Tricia Saunders just like proved the impossible to be possible. You know, like that's not something that like you think of like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this and that, but like setting those goals, and like obviously after her first world championship, she was just like, okay, that's not enough, I want another one, you know, and just kept on like building up onto that goal. So that's like just amazing, you know.
Absolutely. And when you talk about that, so this season, you got the opportunity to finish on top of the podium in Kissimmee, which I had the opportunity to watch you a little bit. And then you had a great tournament, and it finished off a really great season. So talk about for a second, how did it feel to win a state title, end up on top of the podium, have me butcher your name when you got on top of said podium? Apologies for that as well. But just kind of give us a little bit of a rundown of what that was like for you this year in Kissimmee.
So I remember the day of like finals, because like the first 2 days, like I was excited. I was like, okay, you know, like this is my moment, this is my time, you know. And then, but like the finals day, I remember watching them set up the tunnel, and immediately like my heart just started racing. I was just like, oh my god, it's almost time. And like I was just like freaking out. And then I went down, because we were getting ready to like, you know, warm up and all that stuff. So I went down, I warmed up with my partner who was with me throughout the entire season, Anaya Wayne. She is a freshman, and you know, it's her first year wrestling, but for her being a first year wrestler, she's pretty badass, you know.
Yeah.
At least in my eyes, like she has so much potential. But yeah, I was drilling with her, and I was just going over what I knew, and you know, just trying to get warm and basically get out of my head. And then after they had brought us back behind the tunnel, it's like game mode on. Like my nerves settled and everything. Like yeah, I still had like the little jitters, but like the good jitters.
Yeah,
and
it's butterflies, not nerves.
yeah, yeah. So it settled, and I was just like, it was game mode on, and I just remember going through that tunnel, and like they were doing a countdown, and it just like blacked out, completely blacked out, and I just like before I knew it, like when I gained my conscious back, I guess is when I was getting my hand raised, and like I don't know, it just like felt like something that didn't seem possible my 8th grade or freshman year came true. Like this was something I was looking forward to for a good 5 years, you know, winning a championship. Like when I was in 8th grade, I was like, I'm never gonna be a state champion. Like that's almost
Yeah.
impossible. Like I don't think I'll be that good. So I just remember like feeling overjoyed and beyond accomplished, and like, you know, like everything that I had worked so hard for the past few years, not just that year, but the past few years, was just like, you know, like
Yeah.
all worth it. And you know, I had to work 10 times harder this year because of my injury last year. So coming back from that knee injury, trying to gain the muscle back, trying to gain my cardio back. I even did swim the beginning of this year just so I can get my cardio up, which oh my gosh, I did not like swim, but at least it taught me how to swim and it helped my cardio. But yeah, it was a really prideful moment, a really like, you know, just joyful moment. Like I just if I can go back to that moment, I would.
So to kind of give a dichotomy, you ended this season on top, you know, knee injuries. I think knee injuries as a whole happen to wrestlers, especially when you do it for X amount of years. Coming from personal experience, having missed this previous season in college due to a knee injury, kind of talk about what were the emotions coming into the season, knowing that you had missed out on the opportunity to win a state title last season because of an injury. Like, was there kind of an extra bit of motivation to kind of run it back and finish the mission?
Absolutely. Yeah, there was a lot of extra motivation. Like I I was one of the I was one of the like I was one of the like I want to say like fans or spectators, or that's the word. I was a spectator last year for states, you know, being the first year, and I just remember watching the states and thinking to myself like I could have really been down there. Like, you know, it made me itch so badly to like just go down there and wrestle, you know, being in the stands. It sucked, you know, because there wasn't anything I could have done. It's not like I wrestled through a district and regional and I just, you know, I didn't make it. It wasn't like that. I just couldn't wrestle because of my knee injury. And so going into this season, I told myself like this is all or nothing. Like, you know, I'm putting my full effort into it. I'm not backing down. I mean to say, I was like, I don't care if she's new. I don't care if she's been wrestling for 10 years. Like, we're scrapping, and you know, it is what it is. It's wrestling. Like, this is gonna be my year. It's gonna be my title. Like, I didn't want
Scrapping,
anybody
very
to
on
get
brand.
in that.
Scrapping,
So
very on brand.
so yeah, it was just full motivation. Like, I think it made me 10 times more hungrier missing out on a year to wrestle this year. Does that make sense? You know?
Absolutely.
So yeah, like putting
And
it, just everything, having to put in the work with therapy, having to run, which I hate running, but you know, running, and then just trying to like strengthen up my knee, which, you know, it still has a little bit more to go, because it's still not like 100%, but it's getting there. And I know swimming helped a lot too with my knee injury and stuff. So yeah, just getting back to not exactly my old self, but better than what I was, you know?
okay, so to kind of finish off, you capped off your high school career in the way that every high school senior wants to go out and going out on top of the podium. Gannon University, where you'll be attending, what's the feeling going into that, getting away from home and going to a real good institution up there and getting to wrestle at the next level?
So I don't think it's hit me yet that I am leaving away from home and, you know, finally graduating high school and stuff. Like, I'm beyond ready to graduate high school, and I'm really excited to get into, you know, the college world and wrestling in college. Like, I'm excited for that part, but I don't think it's hit me yet that I'm being separated from my family. Because my mom, specifically my mom, she's been there since day one, from like my first wrestling match to like my previous one. She's just been there since day one. She's never missed a match. She's always she has recordings of all my matches, even like the first one. She comes and shows my very first match to one of my coaches during states, and oh my god, just watching myself wrestle back then was just, it was just so bad. But I thought I was good back then too, so it's just like, wow, what was I thinking?
Shout out Mom Vega and all the moms that record their children and their supporters. Shout out to all of them. They're the real heroes here. But thank you for taking a couple minutes to sit down with me and chat. All right. What's up, guys? It's Lucas Silva here with Fat and Scrappy Brand and SEWrestle.com, and I have the pleasure of interviewing, Florida's Dave Schultz Award winner, Cooper Haase. Cooper, thank you for coming on the show and taking a couple minutes to chat with me.
Yeah, it's no problem. It's no problem. I wasn't busy.
So, it's surprising though with what all the things you've been doing, but so let's talk first. What does the Dave Schultz Award mean to you? And maybe kind of give a little bit of an idea of what it is for those who may not know.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie to you. I had no clue what this award was until I won the award. So really I had no clue. It was like you won it, and my dad was super happy and my coach was super happy, and I was like, what's the big idea? Like, what's the big point here? And then they started explaining what the award was, and I was like, oh, this is a big deal. And then I read the article and like all the names that were on it. I was like, oh, these are big names. So yeah, we're getting recognized as one of the best.
So obviously, you know, how cool is it that you and your teammate Kealonie Vega kind of talk about her winning the Tricia Saunders Award? And I mean, as a whole, Osceola, that whole program, it just seems like your whole crew is just a bunch of fun-loving people that want to kick ass at wrestling. Am I wrong with that assumption?
No, we're like a whole bunch of goofballs. We definitely play around a lot, and I smile a lot before my matches. I smile.
Oh, we know.
I smile mid match. It truly doesn't matter to me. I'm just trying to have fun. Yeah, it's just we're in the match. We could be losing by like 5, and I'm out there with a big smile on my face. And they're like, "Oh, what's going on with this kid?" And then I pin you in the third, and it's like, "Oh." So,
I mean, that's funny you bring that up. You know, having fun and whatnot, because you know a lot of people don't maybe know where your and I kind of history, I guess, started. I'll never forget this. I take my team to the Knockout SummerSlam, and we're dueling attack in the quarters. And this is a freshman Cooper Haase, ladies and gentlemen. I was uninitiated in that fact. I just saw him as a kid who won a state title as a freshman, and I had a senior, Josh Noble, who won himself a state title. I swear to you, we're looking at the night before. I'm like, oh, this is a swing match. We might be able to take this freshman versus senior. And Cooper went out, was shooting jump shots and taking care of business, and beat up on Josh Noble, ended up majoring him. And immediately after the match, I looked at my assistant coach and I was like, who or what is that? Because I just never heard your name before. So with that being said, something I've always wanted to ask you is, where the hell did this fascination, and I love it, by the way, we're doing jump shots in the middle of your matches. When did this come from? I've been wanting to ask you this as long as I've known you.
Oh, okay. I think I met you. You were a senior and I was a freshman, because you wrestled at Knockout.
Yeah.
And I think you made the finals that year and had to wrestle like Lucas Willis or something like that.
No, I lost to Singleton in the finals
from
Singleton.
Woodward, yeah. And I lost to Morales in the quarters. And that tournament was like a turning point for me. Knockout was. And I think there was assembly, like a school assembly. And I didn't go to the assembly. And I stayed in the mat room, and we have this game called mat room basketball. It consists of a pull-up bar and a volleyball. And we play basketball like that. See, I'll make a claim right now that I'm the best at mat room basketball. Like, I'm number 1. Like, I get double teamed the entire game. That's how they had to try to stop me. And I used to be really bad mentally preparing for matches. And Coach Bird was like, why don't you just play basketball before your matches and see if that works? And I was really skeptical at first because I thought people were gonna think I was cocky or arrogant. But then I was like, you know what? This is fun because like now the entire team starts playing basketball. Like me and Gunner have a handshake with basketball. Me and Jakis, who was a previous wrestler, we played basketball for all of our matches. We would just do one-on-ones with air basketball. And yeah, that's where it all started. Because I missed
Really?
and
that's kind of funny that it came from a coach. Actually, that was not what I was expecting. I was
Coach
expecting it,
Berg.
but that's pretty funny actually. So I guess the kind of you mentioned the knockout. You know, there was a lot of talk in the run up to the knockout this year about Cooper Haase. You know, if he doesn't win the knockout, he might be the best one who never won the knockout. I personally felt disrespected that your dad put me fourth on that list, but whatever. You know, it's neither here nor there. I love your dad, but I still feel disrespected about that. But kind of talk about the knockout this year. Not that necessarily state was lesser, but the knockout probably more the tournament you highlighted on your calendar when it comes to who was going to be there to wrestle. So talk about what was it like walking into the knockout this year, knowing that this was kind of the last notch in your belt you hadn't had during your high school regular season career.
Well, yeah, it was definitely a tournament that's been on my goals to win because I looked up to this well, I call him kid, but it's guy, it's a grown man now, Malik Hines. And I always looked up to him, and he won 4 knockout titles. And I was a freshman, and I lost my first one. I got 4th, and I lost again and got 2nd. And I lost again and got 2nd. And then I was like, all right, this is my year. Like, had a great preseason, made the national rankings, got way better at wrestling, got a great understanding. And I was like,
went to Super 32 and was it Gilcher that you had on the ropes?
yeah, I lost to Dylan Gilcher by 1 point there.
I commentated that match. That match,
semis.
you were walking him down at the end of that match, and I thought you were going to get him. Genuinely, I thought you were going to get him.
Yeah, I made a mistake. I went for cradle too many times. I should just try and pull it in bounds, try and get a takedown. But deep down, I kind of wanted a stall call to happen to go to overtime to see what happened in overtime. I feel like he scored the first takedown, and then he just tried to held on to a lead, backing up into the out of bounds line, playing the boundary. And yeah, Super 32 was a great tournament for me. That was like my favorite one. I didn't even win it. My favorite tournament is not the tournament that I won. It's a tournament that I got 4th in. And that's because I lost to Gilcher. And I go down. And my next match is Joel Adams, who just pinned an Olympian. And that's my next match in the Conti semis.
What a draw.
And I beat Joel Adams. Don't even know how I did it. I beat Joel Adams. And then I got wrecked in my 3rd and 4th place match. But I was like in awe that like this is
who'd you wrestle in the 3rd, 4th?
Coy Bisgins. He's like number 2 in the country right now.
Okay. Tough. Yeah, no, he's tough.
Yeah, he lift and returned me like 5 times in a row. I'll stand up, got lift return. Stood up, got lift return. And I was like, all right, I'm not standing up no more.
Stand up ain't there. I'll throw something else at him.
Nah, I'm gonna try and go back. My choice next. So I'm picking neutral. And yeah, so I lost that match like 3-0. And yeah, that's my. I knew knockout was gonna come sooner or later. I proposed to my dad for knockout that I wanted to go up to 160 because I don't like to run away from people. I don't run away from kids. I go towards the competition. So I said, I want to try and win the greatest knockout bracket of all time. Bambanelli, Minto, Hodge, me. That's 4 nationally ranked kids in one bracket.
That would have been a nasty bracket.
And he said, Cooper, why would you take your chances? We can almost guarantee knockout title at 52, or you can take your chances to go to 60 and possibly lose. And I was like, I'm the type of person that's go big or go home. So I wanted to go up to 60 and make this knockout title really memorable. But yeah, I guess plans said otherwise. Couldn't even cut weight to make 52. I'd step on the scale at 52. So yeah, that's what happened there.
Yeah.
I'd
like to see you and Bambanelli. The styles are so different that seems like a really fun possible matchup.
I think it'll be a good matchup too. He wrestled Claudio Torres.
Yeah.
At NHSCA finals. And I wrestled Claudio Torres twice this year. won like 12-6 the first time, then 3-2 the second time. Granted, I don't like to make excuses. The second time I was pretty much on my deathbed, sick. And yeah, so no excuse though. Should probably still win. But at the end of the day, I was just trying to win, not blowouts, just win. But yeah, I wanted to wrestle Bambinelli, and I also wanted to wrestle Minto. Those are, and even Kendrick Hodge. I want to wrestle all four of them. I mean, those are all good matches. Nationally ranked kids, I like to go after the competition.
Yeah. And you talk about wrestling these guys and some of the guys you've wrestled. You know, if people look at your shirt right now, they're going to see, of course, Army West Point, where you'll be attending for the next 4 years. Yeah. Talk about what went into the decision process of going Army, and what are your expectations going to West Point this upcoming fall?
All right. Funny story about that is when I was a sophomore, when a recruiting day first opened up, I barely had any colleges reaching out to me. I won 2 state titles. I lost in some schools reached out like Gardner-Webb, Little Rock, Missouri, Army, Air Force. Those were like my only schools and Campbell. They were the only 6 schools that reached out to me. And I was like, all right, I can handle these 6 schools. They're good schools. And
yeah,
I went to Fargo, and I'm like 6 feet tall, and I made 120 pounds at Fargo. And I lost like 2 rounds before the blood rounds. And then those 6 schools went down to like 3 schools, the Army, Air Force, and Missouri. And I took my visit to Army, and I completely fell in love with the school, the atmosphere, the team. And I was like, all right, this school is the one for me. And I ended up committing like 2 weeks after that visit. And yeah, now we're doing good. The recruiting classes that we're bringing in this one is like one of the best ones probably ever for Army.
So you knew Army was going to be the route for you really early on in the process, right?
Yeah, no other schools like reached out to me like ever. Like they didn't want to try and take a risk on me at the beginning. So why should I give them the chance to try and take a risk on me at the end when I'm doing all the big things?
Hey, I get it. I'm not gonna disagree with that logic there. You know, it's that kind of, you want me at my worst, you deserve me at my best kind of thing.
Yeah.
But so what are your so this is where, for some that may not know, how does it work when you go to a military academy? Like, are you planning on wrestling next year? Like with them, is it a red shirt? Like, what's the game plan for Cooper Haase next season?
All right, so have you heard of like Braden Basile? Because I'm trying to keep up with him. Come do something very similar to him.
Yeah.
So I'm taking like a red shirt year. So I go to this prep school that's like 5 miles away from West Point, up the mountain, and I go to that school. It's called United States Military Academy Prep School, and
Gotcha.
I go there for my first year of college, just to I was explaining like this. They're gonna try and get me prepared better for West Point. So I go to Osceola High School, which is not a great academic school at all. So they said my wrestling was good enough to go straight into West Point, like go straight college practices, but they want to focus on academics because they want to make sure I can completely get through the school and do my best wrestling. So it's like taking a year to grow as a student and athlete at the same time. And yeah, so that's what's going to be up for me. Whole bunch of open tournaments, and hopefully I get to go to U20s next year, which I'm really excited for. So yeah, that's the plan for me next year.
That's awesome, man. Well, thank you for taking the opportunity to sit down with me and take a couple minutes from your day and have this little conversation. Anything you want to say to the viewers before we sign out?
Nah, I'm good.
All right, thank you, man. It's been fun talking to you. Good luck to you at Army, of course, and congrats on the Dave Schultz Award.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we out. Peace.
All right, see you.
All
right. So that was Cooper Haase and Kealonie Vega, and now we get to our discussion section of the weekly podcast, and we've got 2 things that we're going to discuss. First one, it is Scrappy's take on the top 7 states. And the question I have for you here is, what was the kind of criteria? Is it like freestyle Greco? Is it overall? Like what is
Everything. So, okay. I'm running this as a power ranking. So I'm probably going to do these about once a month, and I'm going to look at the biggest events in that month. So right now we're in the freestyle and Greco season with a caveat. So the 4 main events that were taken into consideration were NHSCA Nationals, Women's Nationals, Beast of the Southeast, and the U.S. Open. Beast of the Southeast, not as much, but the main 3 events. That is what really I looked at. I crunched the numbers on national champs and All-Americans, and I used that to give myself an idea of what states are doing the most and being the most consistent. And the reason why I'm running it as a power ranking is these lists are going to stack on top of themselves. So state blank, who's at number 1, will have an advantage over state blank, who's at 4, because I want to reward the consistency of states continuously going to these high-level events.
All right. Is this only high school age, or is this like senior level? I mean, is the Wolfpack Wrestling Club giving North Carolina a bump or not?
I included everybody from the U.S. Open, but again, as we talked about the RTCs, I put a little caveat on with Wolfpack and them because they're not North Carolinians to me in my criteria. Just like Bizaukis would claim for Florida in these rankings. Okay.
So we're doing 7, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It's the states that you cover. And we'll start at number 7. And this is more of a soon-to-be Mississippian at number 7. They've had a couple guys go on to compete, had some good shows at NHSCAs, had a couple guys and girls at the U.S. Open go 2-2, 3-2, but not a lot on them yet. So they sit pretty comfortably at that number 7 position.
Okay. All right. So that's an additional state that we typically cover 6, but because we've been doing a few things and trying to promote the sport in Mississippi, you've included them in your group. So they're number 7. Who's number 6?
Number 6 is South Carolina, 2 NHSCA champions, 12 All-Americans out of NHSCAs, 1 USMC Women's All-American, and 2 total U.S. Open All-Americans, as well a 3rd place finish at Beast of the Southeast. I don't want to say that they were kind of comfortably in that number 6 spot, but I think as the numbers started coming in, it looked rather clear to me that they would sit in that number 6 spot heading into May.
All right. Okay. All right. And number 5.
Alabama, they come in with 2 NHSCA champions, 17 NHSCA All-Americans, and 4 total U.S. Open All-Americans to their name, including Corey Land and Greco. Really consistent out of Alabama. They had more NHSCA All-Americans, and the U.S. Open U.S. Open All-Americans as well pushed them ahead of South Carolina.
Yeah, and we should say Corey Land, who you considered an Alabamian, even though he was competing under the UNI flag of,
yes.
But he wrestled great. He took second in his weight and then, but got hurt and wasn't able to even compete in freestyle.
Yeah, which is a shame. I would love to have seen him in the finals. Corey's a good kid, and I'm wishing him nothing but a speedy recovery, man.
Absolutely. All right. Jump into number 4.
North Carolina, 29 NHSCA All-Americans, no champions at NHSCAs, 1 USMC Women's All-American, 4 total U.S. Open All-Americans, and then in brackets, the 14 RTC All-Americans. Alabama and North Carolina flip-flop. I ended up giving North Carolina the nod because of their U.S. Open performance. I have to give some credence to the RTCs. I don't necessarily believe they're North Carolinians, but they're training in North Carolina. So that was kind of the last nod to them. I actually had Alabama ahead of North Carolina going into the U.S. Open.
All right. So that leaves 3 states, Tennessee, Florida, and Georgia are left.
Yes, sir.
Who's in at number 3?
It's the volunteer state of Tennessee, 4 NHSCA champions, 12 All-Americans, 1 USMC national champion in Piper Fowler, and 7 total U.S. Open All-Americans. Just a really good month of April into May for the state of Tennessee. And I kind of had a feeling they were going to be in that 3 range. So they fell basically where I thought they would.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Cooper Hilton had a great run out at the U.S. Open. And Piper Fowler won at the women's nationals. So definitely in that regard. All right. So we're down to the top 2. You want to tell me 1 and 2 or 2 and 1? How do you want to do it?
I'm going to say 2. And actually, I have Georgia coming in at number 1 ahead of Florida. And we're going to go straight compare to compare. In NHSCA champions, Georgia had 12, Florida had 9. In All-Americans, Georgia had 40, Florida had 32. USMC champions, Georgia had 2, Florida had 1. In USMC All-Americans, Georgia had 2 to Florida's 5. And then 12 U.S. Open All-Americans for Georgia to Florida's 10. I think in the month of April, the state of Georgia competed and performed better. They get the nod from me, but it was razor thin going into the U.S. Open. I feel as though if Florida had more U.S. Open All-Americans, they might have jumped ahead of Georgia. It was really close. But heading into May, I give Georgia the nod. They're the first ever number 1 in Fat and Scrappy Southeast 7.
All right. So Georgia 1, Florida 2, Tennessee 3, North Carolina 4, 5 is Alabama. Is that right?
6 South Carolina,
is South Carolina, and
7 Mississippi.
7 Mississippi.
And by the way, quick shout, I didn't get a chance to say it at the start because I shout out to Mississippi. I'm really hoping that we can help grow that sport. And if you are in the state of Mississippi and you want someone to cover your state, I would not mind doing it. Shoot me a message and we'll see what we can do.
All right. Okay. So if you don't agree, drop a comment, send a message to Fat and Scrappy, and we'll I'm sure he'll be loving it.
I'm here. Y'all know where to find me.
All right. Our last discussion is our top 10 tournaments, high school in-season tournaments.
Yes.
In the Southeast. And I'm not sure, you and I haven't actually discussed how we're exactly going to do this, but why don't we go like
10, 10, 9, 9, like do it like that.
Okay. All right. So number 10, who do you have?
I have the Buford Invite, a great tournament. Was a little bit bigger when I was in high school. It's kind of downsized over the past couple years, but still a great tournament. Teams like Buford, Central Carroll, Commerce, Lassiter, Mount Pisgah, Woodward were in attendance this year. A great event, but it's kind of downsized over the past handful of years.
All right. My number 10 is Huntsville, the Huntsville Invitational, which has been around for like 40 years. Huntsville, Rockmart was there. Brentwood, Tennessee took 4th. Soddy Daisy down. Morgan County came over from Georgia. And I will go ahead and actually let everybody know, when I was doing mine, I was looking for like a combination of teams from lots of different states. And that doesn't happen in all of them, but that's kind of what I'm looking for. So that kind of has an impact on kind of my rankings. All right. Number 9.
Number 9 for me is the Huntsville Invite. Just as you said, lots of good teams from across the Southeast, and a tournament with a lot of history too. It's rather long running, and that did play a factor to me. Is newer tournaments kind of it's easy to do a tournament once and make it big. Can you do it multiple times over? So the history of a tournament for sure played into my rankings as well.
All right. My number 9 are the Border Wars 10 down in the panhandle of Florida. And the reason I like this is that I love to see the Louisiana teams come over and compete. You had Holy Cross, you had Jesuit, you had St. Paul's, you had Woodward Academy, who took 4th. You had Vestavia, who came down from Alabama. You had Swanee from Florida up. So you had Louisiana, Georgia, Alabama, Florida, 4 states that were all present at Border Wars 10. So, all right. Number 8.
Yep. Number 8 for me is the CFK Invite out of Jefferson. It is a really good Georgia tournament. When you look at just the Georgia teams for a second, Jefferson, Mill Creek, Jackson County, Cambridge, Columbus, Mount Pisgah, and then who at Trussellville was there this year. And speaking to Coach, he's looking to expand it this year, has some really good teams on the docket. I think this tournament's only going to grow. And, it slides at number 8 for me. By the way, I did not have Border Wars, but that's a really good one. I will say. That was a really good one.
CFK Invitational is my number 8 as well.
Oh,
and
okay.
You already said it all, so I don't need to say it again. So we'll go ahead and move on to number 7.
Number 7 is where it really started to get dicey for me. Like, this is where it really got tricky. For me here at number 7, I went with the Prep Slam. Same type of thing. In previous years, Wyoming Seminary, Lake Highland Prep, Jesuit, Macaulay, Holy Cross, Cardinal Gibbons, Woodward. Like, I go on and on. Great programs have been here. Past couple years, kind of downsized a little, but I know that the guys at Holy Innocents are looking to grow it and continue to get it back to where it was. So more to come, asterisks needed, but as it stands, Prep Slam comes in at number 7 for me.
All right. So I'm actually got a tie for number 7. And
Okay.
that gives me 11. I know, but I'm just saying. And one of mine was Prep Slam. And then, so I don't need to say anything more about it. And I actually agree with you wholeheartedly. Man, back in the day, you had Jack Mueller wrestling Joey Silva in the finals. You had Silva. You had some just awesome matchups. It is not the same level that it once was, but certainly still a very, very good tournament that brings in teams from all over the place, really good prep programs. And they share it for me with the Indian Classic up in Tennessee. The Indian Classic has Tennessee, Alabama, Virginia, West Virginia, Georgia, South Carolina, 6 states represented, 27 teams. It's a really, really good tournament as well. All right.
The Indian Classic was on my outside looking in. That's a good tournament too, a really good one.
And I've got a couple outside looking in as well that we just couldn't fit them all in.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
All right, number 6.
Number 6 for me is the Cleveland Duels, a great duel tournament up in Tennessee. Blackman, Bradley, Cleveland, Father Ryan, Summit, Rossville, and then from Georgia, you had Cass, Gilmer, Dalton, Jefferson, Woodland was there. It was a really, really meat grinder of a duel tournament, and it's just a great tournament. And every year you get a lot of really fun and great matchups.
So the Cleveland Duels are my number 5 tournament. So that was your number 6, right?
Yep.
My number 5. And I won't say anything more about the Cleveland Duels because you just said it, and I agree with you. It was basically Tennessee versus Georgia,
yeah,
and a bunch of duels, and some of the best programs in both states. My number 6 is the Danny Byron down in Florida. It has not only South Dade, Osceola, Fleming, Jensen Beach, Lake Gibson, Palmetto Ridge, Southwest, but it also entices Camden County to come down and be part of their group. So that's my number 6. Who's your number 5?
My number 5 is the Johnny Drennan up at Father Ryan. That tournament has been great for years. This year, you had Father Ryan, Macaulay, Brentwood, Union County, out of Kentucky. They came down the rain. Just, again, a real solid event every year. And it's the type of event where you get a hell of a lot of ranked-on-ranked matchups. I think 30-something teams were there this past season, and it's always a lot of fun to watch and look at. So that's one of the tournaments that I'd love to go cover maybe. So the Drennan for me comes in at number 5.
And I did go cover it. I actually have some videos of the finals from last year. It was fantastic. Really good tournament. So I've already given you my number 5. My number 4 is the Johnny Drennan. And the only thing I would add to what Lucas just said is it not only had Union County, had a bunch of Kentucky teams, had a Wisconsin team in there. I think Athens from Alabama came up. Eastside from South Carolina was finished 5th at the tournament. That should give the South Carolinians an idea of how tough that tournament is when Eastside takes 5th in a tournament. Just goes to show you that that's going to be a tough one to win that tournament. All right, who's your number 4?
My number 4 is the Danny Byron. So not too much to say on it. A really great tournament. I just wish they would keep a team score because I'm curious.
Well, I'm sure Coach Wilder doesn't want any team scores. He just wants to kind of go wrestle, right?
You said it, not me, but that's why he goes there because there's no team score. You said it, not me.
All right, number 3, the number 3 team. Number 3 tournament. Sorry.
What's your number 3?
My number 3 is the Southern Slam.
Okay. My number 3 is Holy Angels. I have a feeling I know what happened here.
Okay. What?
My 3 is Holy Angels Southern Slam knockout. You went Southern Slam Holy Angels knockout.
That is correct.
Okay, so
why did you put Holy Angels at 3 instead of Southern Slam?
So I take everything into account when it comes to when I'm ranking a tournament, and efficiency of the event matters. And yeah, I don't think I need to say anymore. But both Southern Slam and Holy Angels are great events. They pull a little differently regionality wise. Southern Slam is more Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, and some North Carolina. Holy Angels is more North Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee. It's just different regionalities. And I will also, hand up in the air, a little bit of bias. I was a 3-time Southern Slam champion, so I really like the event. Shout out the guys at Eastside. So I will admit, probably some bias in there. I'll throw that in there.
All right. So before we talk about the knockout, which is our number one, I'm going to give you a couple that were on the outside looking in for me. And that was Heart of Dixie at Vestavia was part of that. The Hook'em Holiday Clash was part of it.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I like that one as well. Guerrilla Warfare Duels.
Guerrilla Warfare was in at 10 for me until Guerrilla Warfare and Heart of Dixie were both in the mix for me.
Yeah, so I like GP West up in Tennessee. They bring down Mater D from Evansville, Indiana. Man, they are solid. They are super good. And then you've got some Florida tournaments like Live Greco and the Colby Singletary Memorial Tournament that I think are super fantastic as well. You could throw in McCauley, Bradley Invitational. You could throw in a lot, really.
For me, there was about a group of 16 tournaments that really made my final cut to where, and Bradley and McCauley were both in the mix for me too.
All right. So why is the knockout number one?
Because you had multiple matchups this year in the finals where you had nationally ranked kids in the finals.
Yes.
And then you had multiple weight classes where nationally ranked kids were on the consolation side.
Well, and I think, yeah, and we're not nationally ranked. I mean, I think there was the deepest weight, I think had 18 like state champions in the bracket.
Yeah.
I mean,
it is year on year the toughest tournament in the Southeast. Osceola runs 37 events every year, and that one is King Kong. Crown it. It is the knockout. It's the best tournament in the Southeast, and it only continues to grow and get better. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where this year I've heard some rumors about teams coming, and I'm like, okay, sure, cool. This is going to be real interesting. I love the event every year. Getting to wrestle at it was amazing. Getting to cover it this year was fun. And I really like the event. So I feel like it's kind of consensus.
Well, and I think that for those of you that don't know, it's 64 teams, but they bring in one or two individuals if there's like a single kid who wants to come in to fill out the bracket if that's necessary. But you have teams from Ohio, from New Jersey. We had Total Oklahoma. I mean, and then you not only have them, but you have pretty much the top programs from all over the Southeast who have competed. Cleveland has won it in years past. Camden won it. Camden won it for years in the middle, like when you were wrestling. South Dade won it last year. Baylor came down and took second to Total Oklahoma. So yeah, absolutely a fantastic tournament. All right. So if you don't agree with us, if you think another deserves to be in the top 10 or something along those lines. And one thing I want to say to everybody is this is based upon last year or the last couple of years. So yeah, like we mentioned, CFK Invitational and Coach Beard, they are bringing in some good teams this year. So yes, maybe it moves up based upon who is there this year. So
I agree 100%.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you jumping on with me this week. And yeah, I look forward to maybe hearing some more of your interviews of Dave Schultz and Tricia Saunders Award winners in the coming weeks. Yeah,
I'd love to. They're a lot of fun. But hey, to everybody out there listening, if you're doing an interview, don't put your phone on the sun on your dashboard. Shout out Kealonie. She knows why I said
that. All right. You take care. You everybody have a good week. And yeah, we'll hit it back up next week. Next Tuesday. All right, man. See you. Bye.
See ya.